Welcome to the Objective Christian YouTube channel, where we talk about life, about God, and whatever people disagree about. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and get notified of new episodes. In this episode, we're going to take an objective look at war. Let's begin. War is defined as a state of usually open and declared armed hostile conflict between states or nations. Due to the recent invasion of Ukraine by Russia, this question has been raised in our minds. In our generation, we've had wars, but I think some of the big wars that we've heard about, obviously in our history books, have been World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and we really haven't. We as a generation have not experienced what our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents had to experience, especially with the implementation of the draft. So it hasn't, I don't think, affected us like it affected them. But let's kind of dive a little bit deep into war in this topic. So why do we have wars? Let's examine some of the wars of history and see why those battles were fought. So historians believe the first war recorded in history took place in Mesopotamia in 2700 BC between the forces of Sumer and Elam. And I'm going to butcher his name. Enim-Baragesi, the king of Kish, led the Sumerians to victory over the Elamites in that war. Although we don't really know much about what led to this war, some experts believe it is likely the result of societies beginning to compete over limited resources as agriculture began to replace hunting and gathering. So there are many reasons groups of people go to war with other groups. Major conflicts often are often the result of clashes in religion or culture, disputes over territory or other resources, acts of revenge, or to make radical changes in a nation's government. We know these as revolutions, revolutionary wars, usually are the latter, radical changes in a nation's government. So let's start with the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War was between England and France, and it started because England wanted to claim the French throne and they wanted to reclaim some of their lost territories. Next, we have the French and Indian War and the 7 Years' War. It started as British colonies pushed west in North America. This brought them into the French-controlled territory, and a great battle in the wilderness of the Allegheny Mountains ensued. Next is the American Revolution, and this war was fought when the American colonies wanted their independence from England. Then we have the Mexican-American War. It began when Texas gained its independence from Mexico in 1836 and culminated with the U.S. annexation of the state in 1845. One of our biggest and worst wars in American history was the American Civil War, and it was fought for several reasons, but the chief reason the American Civil War was fought was the institution of slavery and ending it. Next up, we have World War I and World War II. World War I was caused by the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, but it all stemmed from imperialism, militarism, nationalism, and the alliances that formed World War II. Although there were other contributing factors that led to the start of World War II, the catalyst was Germany's invasion of Poland. Some other wars that I won't dig into, but they are definitely worth mentioning: the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War. When we look at the list of wars that we just went through and why they were fought for various reasons. And this is not even half the list, nowhere near half the list of all of the wars across the globe that have been fought. The question arises, are they necessary? And the answer is yes and no. But I think it would depend on why. Now, some would just say flat out, there's no reason for nations or states to go to war. But I think in some circumstances, there's no other choice. For example, in this recent war between Ukraine and Russia, one country may decree that they will not go to war. However, if another country does an act of war, like invade, what other choice is there? In this case, Ukraine is simply defending themselves, but they must go to war with Russia to do so. I think the key question that arises is, will wars ever cease? Will they ever end? And it does not appear that they will. And it's because of, I think it's because of our inability as people to live peaceably with each other. And that's nations and tribes. We've seen in the past where one nation may desire to acquire another nation. Even in this example with Ukraine and Russia, Russia threatened Ukraine that if they joined NATO, that there will be consequences. And it seems that wars will never end as long as we are here, humans, as long as we are here on this earth. And I think that's a tragedy. So I would like to give the Christian perspective. As a Christian, the Bible tells us in Romans that if it is possible, that we should live at peace with everyone. And I believe that applies not just to the individual, but also to nations. However, we do find accounts of wars in both the Old and the New Testament. Jesus predicted that in the end times that there will be wars and rumors of wars. So war seems to be a condition of our corrupt nature as humanity. As a believer in Jesus Christ and an American citizen, I believe that we as a nation should always lead with a diplomatic approach to conflict resolution between nations. However, we know that diplomacy does not always work. If and when there is a war, our prayer should be for all those who will be impacted by the inevitable consequences of war, which is pain and death. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I look forward to engaging with you and hearing your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and get notified of our upcoming episodes.